we're going to push it. He's going to have to bring it. Because I'm telling you, he's going to have to be able to push it to the next level. Ladies and gents, that was Derrick James talking about Errol Spence' work ethic and what he has to do in the upcoming fight against Terrence Bud Crawford. Now, it's no secret that Derrick James been on air disrespecting Terrence Bud Crawford. He says that Terrence Bud Crawford only has athleticism, and Terrence Bud Crawford has the weakest resume as a pound for pound champion. Right? This is all the shit that Derrick James has to say about Terrence Bud Crawford. So this is what I'm gonna do, and this is a treat for y'all, right? I'm gonna show y'all all the clips of Derrick James disrespecting Terrence Bud Crawford, right? And I'm gonna come with receipts to debunk all the fuck shit that Derrick James has said. And my mom told me this a long time ago. You fear what you don't know. And what these guys don't know, the aerosexuals and Derrick James, that Terrence Bud Crawford is the greatest fighter to ever live. Now, I know y'all gonna critique his resume, but like I said, this video is gonna debunk all the fuck shit that Derrick James and aerosexuals has been saying about Terrence Bud Crawford. So roll the motherfucking tape, please.
Before, even if you add Kell Brook on his resume, still doesn't add up to what Danny Garcia has done. So what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you think about this, Danny Garcia had the deepest resume other than Manny Pacquiao. This is in boxing, period. And as a champion, I'll say on the pound for pound list, he has the weakest resume in boxing.
Terrence, do you feel?
Yes. I feel like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to get into who he fought because we don't even know that.
So you heard Mr. Derrick James went on a rant saying that Terrence Bud Crawford has the weakest resume for a #1 pound for pound champion in boxing, right? And then he goes to dick suck Danny Garcia because Errol Spence Jr. defeated Danny Garcia by saying that Danny Garcia has the strongest and the deepest resume in boxing apart from Manny Pacquiao, right? He forgot guys like Keith Thurman also. So I'm going to show you what all these top guys and these guys with the top names think about fighting Terrence Bud Crawford. Please, let's roll the tape because I'm here. I'm here for y'all.
That's a great fight. Yo, Bud. I got my money on Danny. Yo, Bud, that'll be a... Yo, who you got your money on? I got my money on Danny. Yeah, hold on. Who you got your money on? I got my money on Danny. What's up, bro? Good. Yo, Bud, I'll be honest with you. Regardless... Yo, Danny, I'm going to be honest with you. I like both of you guys. I ain't playing for you. Danny, who we gotta talk to make this fight happen? Right now, I'm just enjoying life. You feel me?
The offer presented by Moretti during a phone call with Angel, $3 million guaranteed, plus upside of the pay-per-view revenue. The plan was for Crawford Garcia to headline Top Rank's first pay-per-view on ESPN. Of course, Garcia is aligned with PBC, meaning he fights exclusively on Showtime and Fox. It was totally professional discussion, Moretti recalled. He said he would discuss it with Danny. Never heard back. I appreciate him taking the call. I think that door is always open, absolutely. So, right, Danny Garcia is enjoying his life, and Danny Garcia is moving up to 154, right? While Terrence Bud Crawford already sent a contract, right, for $3 million to fight Danny Garcia. Spoke to Angel Garcia, his father, right? Because everybody knows that Al Heyman is a bitch, right? And Al Heyman doesn't want these guys to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. So this guy spoke to this man, father. Have a conversation with this man, father, right? And never heard back. Mind you, like I said, I come with receipts. Mind you, right? This would have been Danny Garcia's biggest payday. You feel me? Because Danny Garcia previously had lost to Keith Thurman and Sean Porter. And I stated this in my old videos, right? Look how much Danny Garcia earned against Sean Porter, but they're willing to turn down $3 million and an opportunity to fight Terrence Bud Crawford for a belt. Porter made $1 million and Garcia made $1.2 million. So Danny Garcia turned down a opportunity with Terrence Bud Crawford to earn $3 million in a shot at the WBO championship. Mind you, he was coming off of a loss, right? From the hands of Sean Porter for the WBC vacant welterweight belt. Right? He was coming off of a loss. And his purse was $1.2 million, right? But he has the opportunity to fight Terrence Bud Crawford for $3 million plus pay-per-view revenue, right? And a shot at the WBO championship. And Danny Garcia turned that shit down. Right? So when you guys talk about resume, let's keep this shit in mind. Who else did Mr. Derrick James, a.k.a. Perry the Platypus, had to say? He said something about Manny Pacquiao got the deepest resume in boxing, right? For those who don't know, Terrence Bud Crawford and Manny Pacquiao was on the same side of the street before Manny Pacquiao transitioned to the PBC, right? Let's look at what Freddie Roach and Bob Arum, the promoter, Freddie Roach, the coach, the trainer of Manny Pacquiao, and Bob Arum, the promoter of Manny Pacquiao. Let's look at what they think about Manny Pacquiao getting in the ring with Terrence Bud Crawford. Roll the motherfucking tape.
Pacquiao, Michael Kahn said that the only way you guys will fight Crawford is Manny was guaranteed $20 million. What was your reaction to that?
That is our guarantee in our in our contract. I mean, it's not. I mean, that's what it is. And the thing is, we took a cut last time, and we're not going to take a cut for Crawford. And Crawford asked for $7 million, and Bob says no way to him also. So just what I heard at least. But and Bob called me 2 weeks ago and told me Crawford is the only guy out there. And then 2 days ago, he called me and told me about the fighter from
Australia,
England.
Please don't take that fight.
Burns. So Burns or the Australian guy. Yeah. But I don't know the Australian guy either. So I've never seen
Jeff Horn.
You said it's in the contract $20 million in the sense that the Joe Horn fight will guarantee $20 million as well, or any fight that's next?
His contract reads that his minimum is $20 million.
Manny's?
Yes.
For any fight that's next?
Yes.
In general. So it's not like he's just demanding $20 million for Crawford.
Well, he didn't mean to.
The match represented a nice payday for both fighters. Although Pacquiao was always going to take home the bigger purse regardless of the results thanks to his international fame, according to Dan Rafael of ESPN, the 30-year-old earned $10 million in prize money from the bout plus a bonus-based television viewing in the Philippines. So, you heard Freddie Roach stated that Manny Pacquiao minimum for his next fight, it don't matter who it's against, was going to be $20 million. So it's not like he was just requesting $20 million to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. But receipts showed you guys, and this, I'm so good at this, that it was a lie, right? Manny Pacquiao was guaranteed a minimum of $10 million plus pay-per-view revenue against Jeff Horn. So that means Freddie Roach and Manny Pacquiao had no intentions of fighting Terrence Bud Crawford. And that's not only it, right? That's not only it, right? Freddie Roach has been coming out in the past saying that the Terrence Bud Crawford is a dangerous fight. He doesn't like that fight for Manny Pacquiao. If you guys think I'm lying, roll the motherfucking tape.
That's impossible.
So is it a decent chance for Pacquiao Crawford next year?
We may end up with that fight, and it's a very, very difficult fight, I know. Crawford's a very good fighter. He can move. He's a good boxer. He's maybe like a young Mayweather, I feel, but he's a little better puncher than Mayweather. He's a dangerous guy, but that could be our next fight because, I mean, if we don't get a rematch with Mayweather and so forth, that's the road we might have to take because we still want to be on top to fight Crawford. I'm a little bit concerned about that fight. It's a tough fight. Crawford's a young guy coming up and so forth, and Manny's probably seen his best days behind him, but I will still train him and get him ready for that fight if that does happen. And they push it.
Reservations if he said, next fight I want Terrence Crawford.
Well, I killed the fight. Yeah.
So you wouldn't want that for Manny?
No, because I would know how it would end. I mean, not that I knew it would end in serious disability for Manny. I wouldn't know. But as a fight, it would only end one way.
You wouldn't want to see Manny take a lot of damage. Would it pull towards your emotions, putting him in a position like that?
Forget my emotions. I wouldn't want to see him take that kind of damage because it might affect his future life, quality of his future life.
To Manny Pacquiao, he said he confirmed that you guys had a fight scheduled twice and it fell through. How disappointed was you that you never got that fight?
I was real disappointed, for not getting that fight. We was 2 days for securing that fight. A lot of things, a lot of people that, said they was doing things on Manny Pacquiao's side, lied to us. It's a whole bunch of, things, and the reason why that fight didn't happen.
So you guys heard it yourself. Freddie Roach was very concerned about putting Manny Pacquiao in there with Terrence Bud Crawford. He didn't want to do it. And Bob Arum, which was the promoter for Manny Pacquiao at the time, said he would kill the fight. I mean, that's deep. He will kill the fight, which he did between Terrence Bud Crawford and Manny Pacquiao because he's concerned about Manny Pacquiao's future. Now, Manny Pacquiao did make a transition to the PBC, and in that clip, I showed Terrence Bud Crawford saying that they were 2 days. It was just 2 days for them to secure that fight. But Manny Pacquiao and his team, they lied, right? So it's safe to say that Danny Garcia, a.k.a. Danny Bantam, right, and Manny Pacquiao, the two guys that Derrick James stated had the deepest resume in boxing, didn't want to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. They didn't want to have nothing to do with Terrence Bud Crawford. Now let's look at somebody that they gave Errol Spence Jr. the utmost credit. A 130, 126, or wherever he came from pounder within Mikey Garcia. A well-decorated champion, right? But Mikey Garcia, he wasn't a decorated champion at 147. But let's look at what Mikey Garcia, right, a next guy with a deep resume, has to say about Terrence Bud Crawford. Let's look how Mikey Garcia thinks about fighting Terrence Bud Crawford. Roll the motherfucking
Do you remember that amateur fight? Because a lot of guys remember fighting in the amateurs, but is that one of the fights that you kind of remember exactly how it went, or is it a little foggy? How do you remember it?
I remember a lot of my fights, most all of them. I remember he was up like 3 or 4 points in the first round right away, and after that he just ran around the whole time. It's amateurs, the point system worked for him. At the end of the fight, he beat me like, I don't know, like 19 to like 11 or some crazy, like big difference. We made a mistake of following him. We fell into his game plan. It was a 3 or 4 round fight, so very easily outpointed me. My nephew fought him a couple months later, 6 months later, and we decided not to follow him. My nephew did a lot better than I did. Pelos was up until the last round, lost by 1 point, I think, or 2 points, like very, very close. We had a different game plan, different approach to that. So the amateurs is one thing compared to the pros. More time, smaller gloves, no headgear. It's a whole different game.
Let me ask you something, Mikey. Is you still interested in a Terrence Crawford fight? I mean, you said that Terrence Crawford shook the spot, and you could make something happen.
At the time when I was fighting, trying to pursue something at welterweight, I definitely would have been a lot more interested than now. My mind has changed. Focus is no longer on welterweight. I'm not gonna chase anything there. So my focus will be at 140. So it makes no sense for me to bring up Crawford. He's at welterweight, and he might even be moving up to 154 soon.
So you guys heard it from Little Mike, right? Little Mike said that Terrence Bud Crawford whooped his ass in the amateurs, right? He had the opportunity to fight Terrence Bud Crawford at the professional level, but he decided to fight Errol Spence Jr., the nigga that stands at 5'10 and walks around at 190. Mind you, Mikey Garcia is 5'6", you feel me? 5'6" with like a 68 arm reach, right? And everybody knows that Mikey Garcia started his career at probably like 126 and 130. Terrence Bud Crawford started his career at 135. So it will make more sense for Mikey Garcia to fight a Terrence Bud Crawford. But he decided, because he didn't like Terrence Bud Crawford fighting style, he didn't want to get his ass whooped again. He decided to fight the slower, hard-hitting Errol Spence Jr., a person that is more stationary so he could target. And that failed because he got his ass whooped. And now Mikey Garcia is going to move down to 140. So that is a next opponent that has a deep resume in boxing that ducked Terrence Bud Crawford. Now let's talk about Mr. Keith One-Time Thurman, the guy that defeated Danny Garcia, who has one of the deepest resume in boxing, and the guy that defeated Sean Porter, which has the deepest resume in boxing. Let's look at what Mr. Keith One-Time Thurman thinks about fighting Terrence Bud Crawford. Now y'all remember Keith Thurman was the man, right? He was the man. He was the man at 147 at that time, right? Before he lost to Manny Pacquiao. And look what Keith Thurman thinks about fighting Terrence Bud Crawford. Roll the motherfucking tape.
Played with that. Say what you want to say. I have no interest in the Crawford fight. It does not interest me. They might find a way to interest me. They can entice me. But I've never felt that interested.
Say what you want to say, but I have no interest in the Crawford fight. They might entice me, but I never been interested. Mind you, this is a champion, right? Within Keith Thurman, he was holding the WBA belt at the time. This is before he faced Manny Pacquiao. And Bud defeated Jeff Horn, so Bud was holding the WBO championship. He is saying that he has no interest in gaining a belt, right? He has no interest in fighting another champion, bro. And y'all could go check out my channel. I have a documentary of Keith Thurman ducking Terrence Bud Crawford. I could keep on going. If I want to keep on going, I could keep going for the next 10 minutes of Keith Thurman ducking Terrence Bud Crawford. You feel me? Go check out my channel and y'all will see that in my videos of Keith Thurman ducking Terrence Bud Crawford. Like, Keith Thurman is famous for that. Like, I got a lot of views for that video. You feel me? So those are four former champions, right? That's been on air ducking Terrence Bud Crawford. Ducking Terrence Bud Crawford, right? So when y'all talk about resume, y'all gotta understand you can't put a gun to a motherfucking head and be like, fight. They're gonna fight who they want to fight. Now, Tom Brown, right? During the Terrence Bud Crawford and the Sean Porter negotiation, not negotiation, press conference, Tom Brown stated that it's the fighters that make the fight. If the fighters want to go get the fight, if the fighters want to fight, they go get that fight, right? So these guys has no excuse in the world to not fight Terrence Bud Crawford. They just don't want to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. And that's it. There's nothing else to it. So that debunked all the shit that Perry the Platypus is saying, because Terrence Bud Crawford can't get the fights with these niggas because they don't want to fight him. That's the difference between Terrence Crawford and the rest of these niggas. These niggas, they want to fight at Errol Spence Jr. They wanted to fight a Mayweather. They want to fight a Canelo Alvarez. But they do not want to fight a Terrence Bud Crawford. And please, let's not talk about money, because a lot of these guys got their biggest payday to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. Amir Khan got one of his biggest payday to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. Sean Porter got his biggest payday to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. So all these guys that's going to fight Terrence Bud Crawford, was supposed to fight Terrence Bud Crawford, got their biggest payday, including Danny Garcia at that time. He was supposed to make $3 million plus pay-per-view pay-per-view revenue if he was supposed to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. So these guys are just afraid. Now let's look at the rest of the shit that Derrick James had to say about Terrence Bud Crawford. Roll the motherfucking tape.
I mean, he's a good fighter, man. What Terrence Crawford is a phenomenal athlete. Phenomenal athleticism. That's what it is. He's athleticism. But athleticism is always fleeting. Remember that. Athleticism is free, and when you get to a certain point, whatever age it is, I don't know what it is, look at the other fighter that loves him to death. He talks about him. You know that guy? What's his name?
Tim Bradley?
Used to be a champ.
Tim Bradley?
No.
Andre Ward?
Undisputed champ. He talks about Errol like he's horrible.
Roy Jones.
Phenomenal athlete, right? Athleticism left.
But, I mean, that's a fair point, but I think usually when people talk about Crawford, the first thing they mention is IQ, as opposed to...
Hey, man, listen, man, I'm telling you what I see.
So, you can't really rely on Derrick James' eyes, because if you really look closely at Derrick James, his eyes are fucked up, right? So, what we have here, we have the most accurate punchers in boxing. There's a list right here. You see Terrence Bud Crawford, #1, right? So you mean to tell me Terrence Bud Crawford being a 3-weight division champion and being undisputed, right? And having a 10-streak knockout, right? You're telling me that it's based off straight athleticism? You don't think there's a whole bunch of athletic nigga in boxing? So you tell me how many guys that's a 3-weight division champion that became undisputed. You tell me how much guys has accomplished that, right? So Derrick James is just talking out his ass. He's just talking out his ass. For him to say that Terrence Bud Crawford is just athletic, right? But Errol Spence Jr. has to push himself to the next level to fight just an athletic person. It doesn't make any sense. And it's funny because, like I said, I come with receipts, I come with clips. This is Derrick James on air saying that Terrence Bud Crawford is athletic, and Terrence Bud Crawford knows how to choose his punches, which proves my point that Terrence Bud Crawford is the most accurate puncher in boxing. Roll the motherfucking tape.
Team USA all the time.
What problems does Kell Brook present to Terrence Crawford?
I mean, you know what though? I think that Terrence Crawford is so athletic that's his greatest strength is athleticism and his ability to find shots. Right? I saw like when he caught the guy with a punch, Amir Khan in the first round. But it was like, but that was all I saw. The other fight, I didn't watch it all. I don't watch a lot of boxing. I say it all the time. People don't believe. But I think that his athleticism. Kell Brook may try to use his mass. He should. But man, this guy moves around on you like that. I can't see him being able to keep up with him anyway. But I'm going for Team USA anyway.
So you guys heard Derrick James just put his foot in his mouth, right? He said, apart from Terrence Bud Crawford being athletic, his best attributes is being able to place punches. So you're telling me that you don't need a high IQ to be able to place those punches to effectively hurt your opponent, right? And he's dumb, right? He mentioned a prime example of a high IQ against Amir Khan when Terrence Bud Crawford land that right hook on Amir Khan's jaw, right, and dropped him in the first round. The first round. He did that because he has an high IQ. He's a very accurate puncher, and he's the best counter puncher in boxing right now. So these are all the attributes Errol Spence Jr. has to deal with, right? He has to deal with heart. He has to deal with a guy with a very solid chin that can take punches, right? You're gonna have to deal with that, right? And all that body shit that y'all talking about Errol Spence Jr. is gonna snatch his body. Errol Spence Jr. is vulnerable to body shots. He hates body shots. And y'all seen the way how Terrence Bud Crawford methodically slowed down Shawn Porter. It was through body shots. He realized that Shawn Porter had a great head movements, unlike Errol Spence. Bro, I don't understand how y'all think Errol Spence Jr. gonna win this, but it's very sad. Y'all come up with the narrative that Terrence Bud Crawford is ducking Errol Spence Jr. when Terrence Bud Crawford did everything in his power to try to make this fight. He got a belt. They told him to get a belt. He got a belt. They told him to do something in the welterweight division. He beat on Kell Brook, knocked him out in 4 rounds. He stopped Shawn Porter, right? And then y'all was saying, oh, Terrence Bud Crawford is with Bob. He left Bob, right? And went over to Fox, right? Where Errol Spence Jr. fights on, to Fox. And y'all still saying that it's Terrence Bud Crawford that's holding up the fight. So now, no matter what Terrence Bud Crawford does, it's not going to matter. You guys still going to criticize him until he defeats Errol Spence Jr. That's why I really want this fight to happen, because you guys believe that Errol Spence Jr. is on the same level as Terrence Bud Crawford. So when these guys get in the ring together and Terrence Bud Crawford beat the living shit out of Errol Spence Jr. and all that body shot shit that y'all think that he's going to do, it doesn't work because Terrence Bud Crawford has a longer arm reach than him. I want to know how much fighter Errol Spence Jr. has fought that has a longer arm reach than him, right? That gives Terrence Bud Crawford the capability to fight on the outside more because he has a longer arm reach, right? And it gives Terrence Bud Crawford a better ability to counter punch because Errol Spence Jr. throws wide ass hooks. I'm telling y'all, bro, he's gonna get stopped. And when he gets stopped, I want an apology from all these guys, and I want an apology from Derrick James, because Mr. Platypus, he stays online and he reads everything online and he repeats what they say online, right? But I just made this video so you guys could see that all the shit that they talk about, resume shit, It's cool, but once again, you cannot put a gun to a motherfucker head and make them fight. You can't do that. There's no way you could do that. And y'all can't talk about money because it showed that a lot of these guys got their highest payday to fight Terrence Bud Crawford. But the critics is going to keep critiquing until Terrence Bud Crawford wipe the fucking floor with Errol Spence Jr. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure y'all leave a like. Make sure y'all hit that subscription button. Make sure y'all share this video if y'all enjoyed this content. And I'm out.